Hey everybody, welcome to A Fistful of Dice. I'm Matt, and this is going to be a response video to Dawnforgecast's recent video about favorite NPCs. It's funny that Dawnforgecast included Meepo, because Meepo is one of the NPCs that also sticks out in my mind. The Sunless Citadel was one of the first modules I ever played in D&D. It was sort of when I was first getting into 3rd and 3.5. Well, it might have been the second or third module, but it definitely sticks out on my mind as a very fun and exciting module to play. And I remember Meepo quite fondly. Meepo is pretty cool, and it's funny because I've used Meepo in a few of my own campaigns because I liked him so much. And I'm fond of Meepo-type characters. I've had goblins that are sort of Meepo-esque, for instance. So I definitely... Meepo is a very endearing character to me. But we're going to talk about... well, we'll do two NPCs of my own that I'm very fond of. The first one... his name is Argus Claypool, and I think I actually have his NPC card sitting right here. Maybe. Yep, right here. So, this is the NPC card that we had made for him. Argus Claypool is a half-orc, but he is not your typical half-orc. So, over the course of this campaign that I was GMing a while ago, the PCs kept hearing about this clan of orcs called the Blood Scalps, and they'd kind of run into these guys a few times and fought them a little bit, and they kept hearing about the leader of this clan and how ruthless he was and merciless, and they sort of had this image in their head of this big hulking half-orc with, like, you know, a great axe and, you know, the typical looking half-orc. When they finally meet this guy somewhere down the campaign, they find that he is very suave, sophisticated. He sort of is an artifact stealer, information source. He's basically like, he's built up this reputation for himself as this ruthless, like, killer guy, when in fact he's kind of a big softy. And that's not to say that he hasn't screwed the party over, because he is out for himself completely. But he's sort of this character where you expected one thing and you got something totally different. And it's cool because he's an NPC that the players immediately latched onto as somebody that they really liked. And I have another video where I talk about a rotating roster of GMs. And Argus Claypool is an NPC that has appeared in 2 other campaigns so far by 2 other GMs. So obviously he's stuck with these players. So it's really cool to have an NPC like that that the players immediately latch onto. The funny thing is that he actually fought with them in this big final battle against this demon, and I don't think he hit once. You know, he's not the most confident warrior, but for a half-orc, he's very cunning and very charming. So that's Argus Claypool. The next NPC I'm going to talk about is actually a more recent one, but it's one that, again, the players immediately latched onto, but for very different reasons. And his name was Zamindar Snowhide. Zamindar Snowhide is a Rakshasa. And like most of my NPCs, he has certain physical characteristics and mannerisms that set him apart. What set him apart was that he was an albino. He was a lion Rakshasa, so, you know, he had the big mane and everything. But he was completely white fur, thus Snowhide, and red eyes. He was a magic user and a scholar in this extraplanar city that I devised. And the PCs had to come to him to basically gain the support of his clan. He is the leader of the... basically, there's a warrior caste, a magic user class, and an assassin caste. in this city, and he's the leader of the magic users. He basically owns this big, great library. The PCs kept hearing about how patient and cautious he was and how tough it was going to be to convince him to be on their side. And in order to speak to him, they had to complete a puzzle because he's all about the mind. And once they completed the puzzle, these doors opened up, and there was a big, long hallway with, like, portraits and scrolls and stuff on the walls, and there was, like, music coming down the hall, like, very nice, like, classical music. And so they go down this hallway, and they enter the room, and there's Zamindar just sitting at his desk, and he has, like, it's basically like a record player sitting in one corner just playing this, this nice music, and there's sort of incense burning. And the way I had Zamindar speak and act was very slow and methodical, very cautious, and the players almost got the sense that he was reading their minds, which he was. He had detect thoughts on everybody. But the way that I portrayed him, I'm sitting behind the screen, and as the players are talking, I'm just kind of slowly looking at each of them, looking them directly in the eye. And whenever he speaks, it's very slow, Tell me again why I should help you. Just very, like, in control, calm. And the funniest thing is that pretty much everything this guy did, everyone was like, sense motive. Like, I do not trust this guy. And it was so funny because he was one of the few trustworthy characters in this campaign, but nobody trusted him. And it was all in the way that I portrayed him, the way that he spoke, the way he answered questions, his hesitance to act, the silence, like the PCs would ask a question and there would just be this heavy silence before he would answer. They did not trust him because he put off this kind of sinister air. And it was all about the way that I portrayed him. And he was very fun to play. He was a different NPC for me because most of my NPCs are a little bit more boisterous and out there. But he didn't do a lot of speaking. He let the NPCs, or the PCs, do most of the talking. So he was very fun to play, Zamindar Snowhide. And then, you know what, I'll do one more, actually from the same campaign. The third and final NPC that I'm going to talk about is also from this most recent campaign in the Rakshasa city, and his name was Haash Deadeye. Now, Haash Deadeye was basically the party's mentor. He was a prideless Rakshasa, which meant that he was born outside of the clans. So he had to, whatever respect and status that he had to fight for it. He was, born with nothing, basically. And he was called Deadeye because one of his eyes was missing. He had a big, scar across it. And he spent the entire campaign earning the players' trust, helping them at every turn, allowing them to stay at his estate, training them, outfitting them for battle. And, even though the players were mistrusting at first, they did grow to really like this guy and trust him quite a bit. And at the end of the campaign, he betrayed them. And it was this betrayal that I had been planning for a long, long time. And everyone at the table was shocked when it happened. And people were sad that they had to kill him, that he had betrayed them. And I've done betrayals before, but people have kind of called it. But I really felt like the Haash Deadeye betrayal was probably one of the better twists in any campaign that I've ever done. If I could do it again, there were a couple things that I would do differently, logistics-wise. But the grand arc of him, his motivation, why he was doing what he did, it all made sense. And so when he did betray everybody, it was like oh, crap, yeah, that makes sense that he would do that. So it was really, really fun to play him, because I knew as the GM that he was sort of pulling the strings. He was, and, he was going to betray them in the end, and I had to be really careful about what I said, and how I roleplayed him, because, you know, like I said, they're a suspicious bunch, these players. So yeah, he was really fun. Betrayals are very fun to do if you do them correctly and they make sense within the context of the campaign. So anyway, that's 3 NPCs, fairly recent NPCs. I couldn't really think of any older ones that I was super fond of. These are all NPCs that I played in the last year or 2 years. So yeah, good topic, Don Forgecast. You mentioned that Natural 20 Films suggested the video, so good suggestion, Natural 20 Films. But yeah, that's all for today. Thanks, guys. Happy gaming.